Welcome to the Jonny Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Jonny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at johnnydellsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website JFA49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag. Oh, we're live? Welcome in.
We are live.
Kidding. It is Monday, April 14th, and we are here for your drafting needs. This is the Jonny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel, answering, of course, the whys and hows of the game. And we are going to have some fun today. Johnny, quick question. Did you happen to watch the Masters? Just curious.
Nope, I haven't followed golf in a while. I will say my dad was a massive golf fan. He was super into golf himself. When my dad passed away, we could not wrap our heads around when we had to clean out his house how many golf clubs he had. We kept opening closets and little areas like all throughout the house and would find another 30 clubs in there. My dad had somewhere around 300 golf clubs by the time he had passed away. He was just like, he was, an empty nester, didn't have a lot else to do, and was just like golfing all the time. And he had the Golf Channel on 24/7. I inherited like 14 full sets of irons. I sold a whole bunch of them and used them to buy a guitar because that's what I was doing a lot more with, and knew that would mean more to me about my dad than 14 pairs of irons. I had like Forged Titleist and Callaway and Ping. I think it's the set I'm using of his now is a TaylorMade. I think that's what I'm on. May have been a Bridgestone. I can't remember exactly. I haven't golfed in like 3 years. But he had like 800 drivers. So I did not watch the Masters, though. My dad, if he had been here with me, we would have probably watched it together, or watched it and then been texting each other about it. So, but I was seeing a lot on X about a supposed implosion by Rory McIlroy, and some people not wanting him to win. So I don't really know what exactly happened. So give me the 30-second rundown, Adam, of what happened at the Masters.
Well, the 30-second rundown is quite funny, actually, on Sports Idiot Nation, so make sure you get your dosage today. What I'll tell you is Rory McIlroy screwed the pooch, and at the final hole, all he had to do was par it, and he bogeyed, and it forced a playoff. And then he won the playoff because Justin Rose then screwed the pooch. So Rory did win his first Masters, and there was just some hilarious moments. Tune in to Sports Idiot Nation. Today's episode, I get into that. I don't get into golf either, but it was newsworthy and watchworthy the final 30 minutes, and I could listen to Jim Nantz read the telephone book, so I was down.
He loves him some Jim Nantz.
Hello, friends.
You just have to listen to him with Tony Romo during the football season.
We got a big show today. Johnny, tell us what is going on. Let's get into it.
Well, it's been a couple weeks. We've gone through a bunch of film, and so we're going to dive into Mock Draft 2.0. I did a mock draft pretty last minute with Dre and Sterling Bennett. That was a lot of fun. Found out basically through that process that Sterling and I had very similar views on players and evals on players very, very similar. So I thought there was going to be a lot more, back and forth kind of debate on who should be drafted at different points. And it was a lot of, basically we would say, this is who I think we should get at this time, either him or myself. And it was, I agree. Or, I'll present this side of it. And then it was, yeah, I could see that too. Let's do that. And Dre kind of sitting there just going, all right, whatever, cool. And he, like, it was literally, I was doing a lot of stuff throughout the day, and I'm getting, buzzed for the draft. And so I was listening to a lot of different of my favorite content creators Friday. I had on like Brad Graham. He was on a Paul Hope over with the UK Niners, they were doing a great job. Love listening to Brad and Paul whenever I get a chance, and hopped on. Wayne Breezy was doing a show, and hopped on his, and John Chapman later that night did a full 32 team mock draft with 32 different content creators, each one with their team. I may be doing something like that in the future. We'll see. And by the future, I mean just next week. I've had somebody reach out to me trying to put one of these together. And so we're looking at doing that. We're trying to do that. And so we'll see how that goes. If I can get involved in that. And Steph and Wayne had gone at one point, so I hopped on their show too. And Dre was in the chat, and so he messaged me while I was like commenting a couple things in the chat. I was in the pickup line for my daughter for school, and he's like, "Bro, you should come on and do a mock with me and Sterling." And I was like, "Let me check. I haven't told my wife that I'm going to be out at the office at that point." So and my wife gave me the good to go. So we ran out here and did it. And it was great. I think it was a good mock draft. Funny thing was, it was, I chose a player. We were kind of in the 7th round. Everyone's kind of going, whatever. And I chose a player as Brinson out of Georgia, as a defensive tackle, that I said, I think this would make sense as a 7th rounder for what the 49ers need. And something like an hour or two later, it was put out there that the 49ers have actually had a formal interview with him at the combine. So there you go. That's how it works out. So, but with all of that, Friday on Steph's show, they were talking about how wide receiver from Washington State, Kyle Williams, not the Kyle Williams that we think, wide receiver that all of us have deep scars from, not that Kyle Williams, is scheduled to visit with the 49ers. He's having a top 30 visit with the 49ers this week. He's been visiting a bunch of different teams, and I don't know a lot about him. I will say I didn't know a lot about him. And Steph in there, she was like, "Hey, if you're still in the chat, you need to go watch his tape." So I went home, I downloaded his tape, and I watched it. I will say that kid is explosive. I mean, when you talk about an explosive, get moving, I think the best term I've ever heard people say is run from the cop speed. That kid has run from the cop, because like once he gets the ball, nobody's catching him. And so that he's like, he would gone. There was one play in particular he had against Syracuse that made me stop and go, that reminds me of something exactly that I saw Deebo Samuel do. He was taking a little under route. So it's a 3-step and then come across the middle route, catches it right inside the near hash, kept on a full run, and literally ran through the defense to the end zone. It reminded you exactly of that time Deebo Samuel did that against the Rams. Do you remember that, Adam? It was, I think, 2021 when that happened, where he just caught it and boom, gone all the way to the house through the middle of the defense. It looked exactly like that, what Kyle Williams did. He's a very, very raw route runner. There's pros and cons to that. Sometimes guys come in when they're very raw and they don't have a lot of bad habits, and so you get to mold them into the kind of route runner you want. Other times they come in and they've had so much success doing things their way, which may not be, you know, the quote unquote right or technical way that it is. But and so they'll say, well, they don't work really hard to change the footwork, to change the patterns and of everything. And one thing we know about Kyle Shanahan, he is really, really hard on his receivers. I mean, he is very much about every last detail of the receivers. So I think that's gonna be the biggest crux of what they're going to be trying to find at the heart of meeting with him, is how adaptable and coachable are you to become an efficient router. Because if you look at the explosiveness, the acceleration, the willingness to go over the middle, the fearlessness, all of that stuff, the willingness to block that I see on film, you pair that with about 2 years of development of route running, and you were talking about a scary good receiver. His build and everything reminds me not of Deebo Samuel in there, more of like a Steve Smith. And so, you know, a more explosive Steve Smith, if again, the way he kind of moves and stuff, not in and out of his breaks, just the way he runs and the acceleration and everything reminds me of a Steve Smith and his stature. But if you could get that, you know, top end precise route running, now you're looking at a Steve Smith with a Deebo Samuel breakaway speed. That's scary. But that's what's fun about these prospects, you know, is that none of these guys coming out are finished products. So it's about, you know, how can this guy become that? What is the possibility of what they can become in the NFL? So fascinating prospect to look at. Really enjoyed watching his tape.
Yeah, love it. So we're going to get into a little bit of a fun draft here now. Explain how we're going to be doing this.
So we're going to go about this we're probably going to run through 2 mock drafts. We'll just run through this and get it out. I'm going to do 2 different priorities. One is defensive line early, and one is offensive line early. And much like I did with Sterling, what I'm going to base this off of is Sterling and Dre, is assume that Mike Green's background checks have come through crystal clear. Now, because I think that makes it a little bit easier of an assumption there. Or what do you think, Adam? Or maybe we should let that put that up for a vote in the chat of what we think that that
hashtag clean,
people should
hashtag
do.
dirty.
Let's do hashtag clean, hashtag dirty for what you think in the chat we should do for this mock draft around Mike Green. Do we assume that he's got a clean background check, or do we assume that it's dirty and the 49ers are going to pass on him? Because that changes very much how you approach defensive line specifically in this early part. So I know there's about a 10 to 12 second lag between, you know, where we are and the broadcast. So we'll give people a few moments. Here comes the vote.
3 clean
in there. We have 3
so
clean.
Far, no.
Which one is Adam? So, I mean.
So, I count. Everyone's clean. Strawberry Reacts, Collator, Hugo. Everyone's coming back clean. I think the chat loves
all right. Well,
and they
so far, I mean, it would take a bunch of dirties at this point to
Quiffle ball.
Oh, Quiffle. There he goes. Hey, this show is for you, Quiffle. You were getting over the film sessions, so we're back to a mock draft today for you, buddy. We appreciate you.
Don't take so much.
Well, it's looking like so far,
it's
just going to be a clean. All right, so we will do this from a clean.
I like it.
I got rid of the ads today for everybody. I that's how much I appreciate you people. And again, appreciate all the members of JFA49.com. You allow things like this to happen. So we're going to get into this. We're going to launch this draft off. So I set this to slow because when it runs, even slow is not slow. It's still pop, 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 pop. It just allows me to read some of the picks as they go. So we're going to do this. You ready, Adam?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see if we can do this. I like that a little bit better.
I like it.
All right, here we go. Draft is going to start soon. I'm so excited. The red carpet has happened. All right.
Pterodome in the
Cam
chat.
Moore goes first. Abdul Carter, Will Johnson, Kelvin Banks went early. Whew, Tyler Warren, Jalen Walker went early. Membu went early. Okay. Gosh, that's a haul. That's
We
a
already have a
lot of
haul.
picks.
We already have a haul. I mean, know.
We could trade back to the 30th with the Bills and pick up a second, a fourth, a fifth, 2 fifths, and a sixth. We're not trading with the Bears. I mean, I'm not going to do any of these probably. Yeah, because I don't want to add an extra 5 picks that we have to go through. So,
right.
So that's a lot. Shadur Sanders went 4th. Will Campbell 6th. Ashton Gianti went 7th. Or no. He's not there. They're still there. Shadur Sanders is still there.
Still there.
There's Shadur Sanders is. Should we take Shadur?
Man.
No, I'm just kidding. Totally
kidding.
On staff. Michael Williams is there. Shamar Stewart's there. Mike Green is there. Jihad Campbell, a lot of people really like him as a linebacker. Kenneth Grant is still there. I'm not quite as high on Kenneth Grant as everybody else, just because here's the caveat with him is that he had such an incredible player next to him that it's hard to really evaluate. It's kind of like Mike McGlinchey when he had what's his butt, the guy who went to the Colts. They're mauling everybody next to him on the offensive line at Notre Dame. Walter Nolan's still there.
So wait, Johnny, let me ask you a question. Is this one where we are heavy offensive line or defensive line?
This is going to be more defensive line.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to say on this one, I'm going to go defensive tackle early. And I think Strawberry's not loving me right now. Yeah. I think just because we're going to swing for a high ceiling guy, we're going to pick Walter Nolan.
Well, I'm glad you didn't take George Sanders because Dr. Steve said he will unsub.
I was just kidding about Shadur. Because I've seen some of that out there. Yeah. All right. The Texans pick up Michael Williams. That makes a lot of sense. Watching this go. This is okay. All right. Ezereko went to New England. That's fascinating. Connerly went. Oh man, I was gonna look at him. Gray Zabel's there. Now, a lot of people are really high on Tyler Booker. I don't even have him in the first 3 rounds for San Francisco. Okay. Tyler Booker is a mauler. I think he would fit very well with a team like Philadelphia. I think he would fit very well in a team like New England. For the 49ers, I do not like Tyler Booker at all because his 3-cone and his lateral movement is just so bad. He is a vertical mover, but our scheme, we would have to change almost our entire run scheme and take a lot of stuff out for Tyler Booker. And I don't think the 49ers have him on their board, even in the first 4 or 5 rounds. So that's what's going to happen. So there we go. I chastised Dre for asking that. Dre was stirring the pot. I was just making a joke. But I will say, if Gray Zabel is there at 43, you take Gray Zabel. That is a phenomenal pickup. I don't think he's actually going to be there, but if that happens, you pick that kid because that is your Jake Brendel replacement immediately. Or you're starting left guard. Omar Norman Lott went early. I did not see him going at like 60 before Darius Alexander. Darian Porter just went off the board. Grant, tackle from Mary, looked like Schwessinger just went off the board. So we've addressed interior defensive line. We've addressed interior offensive line. I do like the kid Swinson from LSU. I like both LSU edge players. Savion Jones, I think is a kid that I do really like. Demetrius Knight, I think, is a phenomenal linebacker, and that is an area of need. Everybody knows that how I feel about Femi. I feel like Femi has been shooting up the draft boards, and I've talked about him so much. I'm just gonna skip over him for the sheer we've covered him 800 times. But I think I'm gonna go Demetrius Knight here because I think that is an instant starter next to Fred Warner. D Winters cannot be counted on to stay healthy. He missed so much time last year, just in and out of games. So we're gonna go get Demetrius Knight. I think he's a phenomenal linebacker in this draft. Really like Demetrius Knight there. And so we're gonna see what happens here as players go flying off. Jared Ivey went early. I did not see Jared Ivey. I thought he was going to be a 4th-round kid. I think he's going to be a good player. Oh, KC got Oladejo. Man. So now the 49ers do have 2 still gaping holes in the defensive line and edge. So we're going to have to see where do we go? I think they have to go edge here. I like Kyle Kennard. I really like David Walker from Central Arkansas. I think if Walter Nolan becomes if you think he's going to be, if you pick him at 11, then you are certain that he's going to be a top end, severely disruptive pass rusher, a really good run stopper. So your need at defensive tackle is now run plugger mainly. For me, I really like David Walker. I don't know if he will still be there because of what's there at edge. We got 25 picks and hope that 2 people don't go edge. I'm going to go with David Walker here. That might seem a little early for people, but I do really like him. I think he's a good pass rusher in this draft. We're not doing any trades on this one. I just don't think this is going to be a big trade around draft. Cam Scattaboo is there at 113. There are some rumors that Kyle Shanahan loves Cam Scattaboo. So
who doesn't?
I mean, the only thing I don't love about Cam Scattaboo, but I'm picking him here, is the 40 time. I don't know if he's a home run hitter, and that is such a big thing for Kyle from his edge rushers, or not edge rushers, running backs, is that home run ability. Billy Bowman just went. I think he's an extremely athletic safety that's there. I've talked about him a number of times. You have to go back to the defensive line here. He's sitting there. I want to pick him. I picked him so many times. Jamari Caldwell is sitting there at 138. And I think if you can pick him at 138, you have done a phenomenal job. I do like Jordan Phillips. I'm not as in love with him. I do like JJ Peegs. But are you really going to go get Ole Miss's entire defensive line? I don't think you're going to do that. I think there's some other run pluggers there. I'm going to Jamari just because that's hard for me to pass up, is Jamari at that point in the draft. And I think it fits an absolute spot of need with the 49ers. I do like the Ransom kid. I've watched a lot of Ohio State's tape this year. I'm not 100% sold. Jeffrey Boss is still there, but I'm going to go Jackson Slater. We're going to double dip on that offensive line and rebuild that offensive line. I love Jackson Slater. I think he's going to be a phenomenal inside in offensive lineman at the next level. I talked Dre and Sterling into that pick in our mock draft on Friday. Jackson Slater, small school kid from Sacramento State, was phenomenal on the at the Senior Bowl. Absolutely phenomenal. Getting Gray Zabel and Jackson Slater is getting the two best, and I'm not making that as hyperbole, the two best interior offensive linemen at the Senior Bowl, and it's not close. Those two guys were so far above everybody else. Both of them are converted tackles that were small school kids that are converted tackles that will be playing interior offensive line at the next level. Gray Zabel was a stone wall. Jackson Slater, extremely athletic, able to do a lot of things at the next level. Yeah, Kobe Bryant's there. I do like Kobe Bryant a lot as a corner. You know, he's got to learn to not panic a little bit. He does tend to grab when he panics, but I think for what the 49ers look for in a corner, the measurables are there. The 49ers have specific measurables. You have to be 6'1" for them to want to draft you as an outside corner. You have to have good arm length. And by 6'1", I mean a minimum of 6'1". You have to have good arm length. You might be 6 foot, but your arms better be longer than the normal person's at 6 feet to be drafted by the 49ers. Kobe Bryant is a lanky man corner. They like guys who can play man because so much after about 12 yards in our defense, it's going to convert to man, even if it's a cover 3 zone. And that's what we do. So Kobe Bryant makes a ton of sense there at corner. It's a need, but not a huge need. And I think that's a kid that they're going to like. I do believe that they've had several meetings with Kobe Bryant so far. Look like Jeffrey Bossa just went off the board there in the 6th round. So, we're getting into this. Now you're going to be kind of swinging at different players. I think this is fascinating. Jaden Blue is still there. I will say I've seen a lot of people really high on Jaden Blue to the 49ers. And after watching Texas's tape, I really have some big questions about him as a pass blocker. His pass blocking was really bad. Now, that's generally truth among most of this running back class, but his was particularly not good. And we all know how big of a deal that is for Kyle Shanahan. He does not want to put running backs out there that do not have the ability to pass block. So, I really like Jaw Joyner from Minnesota. I think that's a good edge. We could double dip on edge here. We've double dipped on defensive tackle. We could probably double dip here on the defensive line or edge, excuse me. Nick Nash is an interesting prospect, wide receiver. He was at the 49ers' local pro day as a wide receiver. Fedone as a tight end, I think he's got a huge catch radius, but there's some athleticism issues there. Jake Briningstool, I did actually like him as a tight end at the Senior Bowl. He was there. Teddy Buchanan, he's a prospect that's been getting some more traction with the 49ers. The interesting thing is when you're getting here into these late picks, we've got 3 picks here in the ends of this round this draft. You're really looking a lot for guys that have either untapped upside or are special teams contributors. That's what you're looking at here is special teams contributors and stuff. So I do kind of like there's something about Cam Jackson I really like from Florida, the defensive tackle. Okay. He's a massive human being. I think there is a ton of untapped potential there. Here's what I will say. The kid's got to be tough because the second day of the Senior Bowl, I was sitting there and I was like, is Cam Jackson like a health scratch today? Because everybody came out, they're doing their warm-ups and they're in their football pants, right? Cam Jackson's out there in gray sweatpants. And I thought, oh man, he's just going to be going through the warm-ups. And I noticed him moved really well. He's 6'4", 342 pounds. Massive human being. Moved really well. And I thought, oh no, he's hurt himself. Then the team drills go, and he's still out there. in his sweatpants. Clearly no pads on. And what it turned out, somebody asked him on the field, was that he had forgotten his football pants at the hotel. And so he showed up with his sweatpants and was like, and still went out there and did the full contact defensive line team drills. Okay. He did that in sweatpants. Kid's tough, fearless. He was determined to show what he has. So you know what? Because of the sweatpants, we're team sweatpants today. We're going to pick Cam Jackson there.
I'll be honest, I'm not wearing any pants. Team no pants.
Okay.
This is going quick.
Jaw Joyner just went. All right, so now we're into the stretch where this is definitely special teamers. So we're going to be looking for guys that will be special teamers. I'm going to go with Dan Jackson. I think he's going to be he would be a phenomenal special teams guy because he's such a solid tackler in space, and I think he's got upside as a safety. I think you put him back. He's not quite as rangy as some of these other safeties there. But when I put the tape on him, and I showed him there on Friday, Adam, if you remember, that I keep coming back to him on the film. Dan Jackson there. And I think if you can get him at this point, that's a great spot. So we got Cam Jackson. Now we're looking at everything. I'm going to go with Briningstool as a tight end. I think at this point in the draft, you have no problem getting another tight end. We like tight ends, and we try and do that. So there it is. There is a defensive line early. And just for all the people that think I hate Walter Nolan, that I don't actually hate Walter Nolan. I'm going to save this. I don't hate Walter Nolan. I think he's going to be a good player. I just don't necessarily love him at 11, but I do like Walter Nolan. So there it is. There is a defensive line early class. I think that would be a phenomenal draft haul for the 49ers, that they would really be happy with that kind of a draft. The only things that they weren't able to address are tackle, but that's why you have a 2026 draft. So, I think with that, you have seriously, you have increased the ability, the quality of your offensive line by probably 60%. You now have what I think would be a top 7 or 8 offensive line unit in the league. You put just because you put Gray Zabel next to at center, and you put Jackson Slater next to Trent Williams. Oh my goodness. You can run on that left side all day long. You can run on the right side because now you have Gray Zabel at center and he's next to Dominic Puni. Like, man, that is something there. You put Demetrius Knight next to Fred Warner, and you have got a linebacker who can run, who can hit. You get Cam Scatteraboo as your spell back with Isaac Arendo, with Christian McCaffrey. Your ability to run and pass with any running back on the roster is now phenomenal. Phenomenal. You get Walter Nolan and Jamari Caldwell next to each other at that defensive interior. Man, and you got David Walker and Nick Bosa on the bookends. Sheesh. Yeah. That defense is looking stout. And you have as a rotational guy, Cam Jackson, who's 342 pounds. So you have added some massive beef to your defensive line with both Jamari Caldwell and Cam Jackson. You have 680 pounds of beef now that you can put in the middle of your defensive line that was getting run on last year. So that's there. What do you think about that? In the chat, give us a grade on this draft.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on what Terradome says: 3 home runs, a single, and 2 doubles. Um, that sounds like the Giants against the Yankees this weekend is what it sounds like. Um, that's not bad. I would say a B to B plus. I feel like
A B? You give it a B?
plus a B plus.
To a B? That means you give it like an 87%
An
quality.
89. You know,
B.
some
Okay, that's saying a solid B plus. Okay, when you say B to B plus, that's like
all right,
anywhere from
89.
84 to
An 89.
87.
I'm giving it an 89.
Dr.
Dr.
Steve
Steve,
gives it an 8.5.
that's an 85 then. See, I'm
Celestial
higher
gives
than
it an A. Strawberry an
yeah,
A. We know, we saw how you feel about Scattaboo.
that was a single.
Oh, Dave's saying we should have taken Tyler Batty.
We should have taken Leon Sandcastle.
Oh my gosh. You no, Leon's only got four toes now. He doesn't have a full foot anymore, so
He still
you know,
runs a 4.4.
I love Leon Sandcastle as much as anybody. But I just don't think he's quite got the juice anymore,
Yeah.
Adam. I'm just saying, minus
Minus
17
17.
with Shador.
Yeah.
We're not taking Shador. I will
Shador
say
manure.
I've been seeing. I love Jake Ellenbogen. Okay, a lot of Niner fans love to hate on that guy. He's he's Rams content creator. He's a big voice in the Rams community. But I am so glad that he is really high on Jalen Milroe, because for me, Jalen Milroe is a hard pass. And I remember we were at the Senior Bowl, and Wayne was sitting next to me, and he was like, "Man, Jalen Milroe is looking pretty good out there." I said, "Hard pass. No. I I watched Jalen Milroe miss people way too many times. People can show the highlights all they want. Jalen Milroe is a hard pass. Now, he's also been invited to be a top 30 guy at the draft the night of the first round. I'm feeling he's going to be sitting in the draft room till day 2.
He might get taken. Like,
But I mean,
he
look,
might.
the athleticism is off the charts. He
Right.
hit
There's only
something like
2 quarterbacks faster than him at the combine, and we know who those guys are going to be: Lamar and Michael Vick. That's it. That's the list.
right.
So now I saw this. You've hit a nerve that I actually know something about. So now I get to talk. This
Uh-oh.
is awkward that I know something. He threw, I believe it was like 17 picks, and 11 of them were 15 yards or fewer. Not always just a check down, but just a simple 6-yard pass over the middle, and it got picked off. And it alluded to what you said, that the accuracy and just the processor, he's no Brock Purdy, as far as that goes. Processing.
If he's given really clear and defined reads, he can do that sometimes. Which, watching Alabama, there were so many times that DeBur manufactured very clear and concise reads for him. When he doesn't get that, he will just straight not see players over the middle. His accuracy, he will just straight miss a guy by 4 yards wide right, wide left.
Yeah.
Okay. Or sail it. It's just
Yeah.
so scattershot. Now, that being said, I think last year he hit something like 23 miles an hour on a run for a touchdown. When you got a quarterback that can run 23 miles an hour, I mean, to put that in perspective, that was the top speed that Matt Breida hit on one of his 72-yard runs, touchdown runs for the 49ers, when he was
Against
just gone.
Cleveland.
Like, yeah, it was against the
was.
Cleveland Browns, like the third play of the game, second play of the game, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of speed that he's bringing from the quarterback position. So because of that, I mean, there's going to be some people that are very enamored with that, but there's just so many questions there about him as a passer that I just don't think you can do it. So, all right, we're going to run this again. This time we're going to try very, very aggressively to go offensive line early. And so Shedeur Sanders went number 1 overall in this mock. He's definitely not there at 11. And this is what's so fascinating, is that there's going to be Shamar Stewart went 10 to the Bears. There's going to be a player that gets reached for inside that top 10. And so like there's going to be somebody that everybody has looked at and said, okay, I think that they're not going to make it out of the top 10. That is going to make it out of the top 10, whether it's Will Campbell or somebody else. I know it's the injury history is there. Here's my issue with Will Campbell. Will Campbell is extremely agile. His arm length does worry me for a tackle. I don't think the 49ers are as high on him. I think his arm length is just an issue for them. They do tend to draft on some measurables in there. So we're going to force offensive line early. We're going to go Josh Simmons from Ohio State. I know he's had the injury issues. And there's the worry there. We are forcing offensive line early in this draft. And I just don't think they're going to be as high on Will Campbell as many others do. So I think as far as Simmons, he meets the measurables. I think they won't go that way just because the injury history will scare them. So I don't see this as a very realistic option there, but it's more, how does the rest of the draft shake out for them after that? If you have forced offensive line early, whether they traded up or something. Gray Zabel's still there. That's hard to, but I can't do that because again, we're forcing offensive line early. So Izuraku, I'm not sure where to slot him yet. I've done a little bit of homework on him, but I haven't done a ton. So I just don't know where to slot him. That's tough. I mean, because at this point, I think you have to address defensive line. I do like Alfred Collins, but I like Darius Alexander so much more. Joshua Farmer is an interesting kid. I don't know 100% how to slot him. I could slot him as high as 50, and I could slot him as low as 100. So this kind of 74 seems to be a middle ground. I don't know if he's going to be there at 75. But my issue now is in this scenario, I can't take an Omar Norman lot until I have found somebody who can really stop the run. Omar Norman lot is a good, really good pass rushing defensive tackle, but he's not going to be your run stopper. Alfred Collins is going to be more of your run stopper. I'm going to go Darius Alexander here because I think there's such big upside to Alexander as an interior guy. And for me, interior is such a need that I think if you go offensive line early, you have got to go get a Darius Alexander really early. And that has got to be your second round pick. And it may seem like a little bit of a reach, but I think that absolutely has to be your guy at 43. Alfred Collins is good, but there's some question marks there about pass rush productivity. Omar Norman Lott is good, but there's questions about run stopping ability. So just seeing who's there. I mean, Joshua Farmer is there. You could go that way. I think though now if you've forced the issue at offensive tackle, you need to take 2 high swings at defensive tackle. So we're going to go Alfred Collins to bring in a good run stopping presence, and really shore that up and say, okay, we're double dipping there early to make sure that we have the reinforcement of that interior defensive line. Because if you can't stop something up the middle, Aeneas Peebles went 3rd round. That's Jamar Caldwell went early 3rd round. Okay. So, I mean, and there's Omar Norman Lott, but you can't triple dip on defensive tackle at this point.
Hey, what about the receiver out of TCU there, Williams? At number 100.
I have questions about him. So they force fed him a lot. My issue is they saw him as their number one receiver. I did not see them as the best, see him as the best receiver on their roster. And so I think with as much as he was force fed that, and he's a very versatile kid, there should have been a little bit more production. That's just what I think. I'm going to go Andrew Makuba. I know safety seems high when you have two, fairly higher for safety
We already
drafts,
got a
but
Penn State safety. We don't need two.
he's from Texas.
No, I was looking at Kevin Winston.
Oh, no. I'm looking at Andrew Makuba from Texas. So I'm going to go pick him up. The 49ers are reportedly really high in him. They've met with him multiple times. So again, we're kind of getting into their brain a little bit on that of what they see and who they've met with. I think at this point, you have to go edge. You have to go address that. Jared Ivey is there. This may seem a little bit early for him, a little bit, but I do really like Jared Ivey. I really like Savion Jones. Let me check my draft, my Senior Bowl notes here. I don't have them right by me. I think they're like literally 1A, 1B. I think these are almost the identical players. That's why they're drafted right next to each other. So we're going to go Jared Ivey. I do really like the kid as an edge. This defensive class, and I've said it a bunch of times, and we're picking guys that I haven't talked about a lot yet. That's why I do like this process a little bit, because Jared Ivey is somebody that I think has a lot of upside. Solid edge setter in the run, brings some juice in the pass rush. He's not going to be, a Mike Green. He's not going to be somebody. I do think like Afemi has a little bit more upside as a pass rusher than Jared Ivey, just from some of the physicals. But I do think that he is going to be a quality player there. And I mean, now Savion Jones is still there. We could double dip on that. Of course, we are now into the 4th round, and we haven't picked a running back. And I do think the 49ers are going to pick a running back. We haven't picked a linebacker. See who's there at linebacker. Barrett Carter's there. Jeffrey Boss is there. Nick Martin, Jack Kaiser. I am not high on Jack Kaiser at all. I think he got just destroyed in pass coverage at the Senior Bowl. He looked real poor against a lot of the running backs. I like Brashard Smith for the 49ers from SMU.
What about Etienne?
Trevor Etienne is there. I think again, I mean, that's another solid pass catching guy. Chat, give me some help here. I think we're gonna go running back. We're gonna go either Brashard Smith or Trevor Etienne. Who would you pick from one of those two guys? We'll give you a second.
Yeah.
And in that, we will also again thank everybody, all the members of JFA49.com. You make shows like this possible. You make all the film study that goes into shows like this possible. You are the heart and soul of this channel. We appreciate you so much. You allow so much time to be spent watching film and prepping on these shows, so that we can actually bring some commentary that comes from a place that isn't just reading draft profiles, but is also from watching some tape. Why not Harvey there? I haven't watched a ton with Harvey. I haven't actually watched him a lot. I've watched Brashard Smith. I've watched Trevor Etienne. I think those are two guys that can really catch the ball. And so I just like them there. I think they have that kind of breakaway that's there. So that's where I'm kind of on those two guys, is that I'm more certain about exactly who they are. I've already said I'm not high on Jaden Blue. I think his pass pro is just going to take him off the field there. So I think we're gonna go with Brashard Smith. I'm seeing a couple Smiths there, so we're gonna go Brashard Smith from SMU. I think that'll be a pick for the 49ers. So Let's see who else is. Conyers just went. He's somebody who has been. Steph Sanchez just interviewed him, so Restrepo's there as a receiver. He just makes me kind of go, Savion Jones is still there at edge. We could double dip on edge here, which I would not be opposed to. You can never have enough edge players. Plus, when you have edge players, they can also go at several different. You can use them on special teams. Some of these guys, Savion Jones is borderline almost an outside linebacker and a 3-4. So there we go. Kobe Bryant's still there. We talked about him. I think you've got to pick up a corner in this draft. You don't know who's going to be your third corner on this team. Jalen Smith is somebody that I think they've been linked to a few times, but we're going Kobe Bryant. I mean, again, the 49ers met with him. I think he just makes sense. It's hard to look at that list and say, well, we're going to go a different direction because we want to go in a different direction. So, yeah. We're coming up here.
I think
we don't have a pick again until 2:27, so it's going to be a second.
I'm trying to decide if I already like this draft better. Not with the first pick, and we explained why. This is just kind of, we forced it to be offensive line for the first pick. But other than that, I like these picks.
Yeah. We'll see who's there at wide receiver. I see, there's
also
a question about adjusting or addressing wide receiver. The 49ers don't have to address wide receiver in this draft. They don't have to. Now, we haven't gotten a linebacker, so there is a huge gaping hole at linebacker. So we've got to look at who's there. I think Teddy Buchanan makes a ton of sense there. Rangy kid, was at the local pro day, has met with the 49ers. So let's go get Buchanan. I think, again, even if you don't get him as a starter year one, big special teams guy. I think you immediately plug him in on special teams, and he's making an impact. And they need that kind of stuff. I mean, we have Curtis Robinson coming back. He's coming off that torn ACL, which I loved. Curtis Robinson. Let's go get Nick Nash. I think there's a lot for them to love there. And if you get him at this point in the draft, you are super happy. Tyler Batty's there. We could appease David, but we've already gone edge twice.
Yeah.
We can't go edge 3 times, Adam. We can't. There's no way. We just
competition makes better players.
We can't go edge 3 times. Can we?
Hold on.
Can we?
Let me look.
I don't know. I mean, because at this point, kicker. At this point, you're looking at, okay, who do you think you couldn't get as an undrafted free agent?
Right.
Like, who do you want to lock in so that you don't have to outbid for them?
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of these other kids you can. And again, I said it, you can't have enough edge players. You do have Jordan Elliott and Evan Anderson and Kalia Davis there at defensive tackle that are all guys that can plug the run in the middle. So I think you do have some more depth behind Collins and Alexander. And with the 49ers and their NASCAR packages, I think, if you lose one of these edge guys of either Jared Ivey or Savion Jones during the year, you need a third edge rusher to be able to come in and play that, because you need really 3 edge rushers for that interior NASCAR package. So you know what? We're going to go get him. We're going to go get Tyler Batty and the draft of Tyler Batty. So there we go. how do you feel about this draft? We're gonna go ahead and download a copy of that.
Should I
That
just say
draft,
A- just to make you mad? That the other one was B+.
bro. You go A-. I'm gonna be like, dadgummit,
No,
Adam.
right. You're gonna kick me off the podcast. I'm gonna say B because it is a lesser technically. Go ahead and in the chat, let us know on this one what you are thinking. What grade? There's some good players here.
And
At
again,
good
like
value.
we picked a bunch of guys that we have not picked before in different, and that's why I do like going through this. But after I've been able to look at a number of different things, because and it does underscore what I've been talking about for almost 3 months now, which is this draft class, especially on the defensive line, is so stinking deep that you really you don't, and again, this shows you don't need to go get a Walter Nolan number one at 11. You don't need to go get a Mike Green or Shamar. You don't have to reach on a Shamar Stewart to address the defensive line. What we saw with the other one, you don't need to, if you go defensive tackle, you don't need to reach on offensive line to be able to get some really good offensive linemen at some point in this draft and really start rebuilding your offensive line. So I think if I am so excited for this year, this draft, because there are so many good players coming out of this draft. If you're going to have 11 picks in a draft, this is the draft to do it. This is the draft to have the most picks they have ever had as an organization under Kyle Shanahan. Like, I am so excited about this draft that, man, they really, really do have an opportunity. And I think that was the impetus for them to start clearing some of this salary cap this year. It wasn't just we are hoping we're going to hit really hard on this draft class. I think they're looking at this saying we cannot miss at least 3 starters in this draft. That's what I think they were doing. They were looking at this draft, and as the evals were coming in on everything, they're going, this draft is so loaded with starter quality talent that we could get a Malik Collins productivity out of a rookie year one within the first 100 picks of this draft. We can get a Leonard Floyd quality productivity from an edge rusher in the first 125 picks of this draft. Like, I think that is what led to the willingness to let talent walk out the door.
Younger and cheaper.
And because if you were looking at a draft to do this in, this is that draft. And you're building off of the previous year. So you're going, okay, we hit on the previous year. So that allows us to do this because we know this draft is so close, is so deep. I mean, again, I really, really like Jared Ivey as a prospect. To get him at 113, that I think would be a day one starter on this defensive line is phenomenal. Like, they would probably get the production out of him that they were hoping to get out of Jackson, who, probably won't play again, unfortunately. And I hate that for him. But you can get that kind of production. And I think you're getting 1B or 2B with Savion Jones. I think Jared Ivey and Savion Jones are pretty much the same player. So when I look at what do they have to do at 11, they don't have to do anything at 11. Like, they don't have to. We aren't sitting here saying they have to get defensive tackle. They have to get edge. They have to get offensive tackle. They don't have to. They have the luxury to get the guy they feel 100% solid about and love. And they might love 3 guys. And if it was me, and again, if we assume that Mike Green has come back 100% real, I think that's the guy that you go get there. And then this mock looks very, very different. But even if they don't, and I think they do have Josh Simmons off their board. I really do. I think the knee injury, because it turned out to be a patellar, is a big question for them, especially what happened after Weston Richburg. So I do think he's off their board, but I don't think they're sold on Will Campbell. I really don't think that they're sold on Kelvin Banks. and Will Campbell or Josh Simmons. I don't think they're actually sold on those guys, but we forced it here early. And even if they do for some reason, you can still get a great haul out of this draft. So this has been really fun. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and sticking with us here for the hour. Adam's got to run and see the tax man.
Yeah, I have some extra tax stuff to take care of. Frustrating running your own companies, not knowing what you're
It
doing.
is.
So
It's look, I've had to hire a CPA for the last 10 years or so. And that has been the best decision I made, because it is a root canal every year. It is so rough. What can be deducted, what can't, what is claimed as this. I mean, most people, when you get those, and like 9 of the boxes on that tax return is empty, when you are doing your own self-employment kind of stuff, or things like this, and it becomes very, very tricky. So yeah, I feel you there, Adam. It's not fun.
So, hey, yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody. This was a really fun show. Pretty good drafts. I'll say the first one, I guess, looking back, was better, but I had the recency bias. We will come to you later this week. Be sure to hit the notification bell if you want comedy hour. Me and Miles brought it to you. It was a good episode. Sports Idiot Nation, every Monday and Thursday. In the meantime, in between time, stay blah 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 and blah 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 blah. Stay. I'll try it. I'll try it slowly. Stay safe. Stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.